So last week, towards the end of this year last week, we were talking about this luach, yeah? And the luach basically shows how we break down for the 6,000 years all the way down to today where we are. And we can see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu, b'chokhmato, created the world for 6,000 years. And how that eventually breaks down, there's two systems we said. One system is what began when the sun was created. Yeah, and the sun we know is that's when you have all the festivals and that kind of thing. Adam HaRishon himself, the other way around. The what we call the Parzuf HaZmani began when the sun was created. That came first. Yeah? Because that's when the sun began. That's when there was a day of 24 hours. So from there you get days and weeks and months and eventually get to the 6,000 years. However, we know from the Gemara that the Luach, yeah, as we say in festivals, Parashat Pinchas, a few places, it talks about Alalat HaTamid, and so the Chagim, it's the Mo'adim. So it goes according to us. We have to be cover the Mo'adim according to the Tkufot. So it depends on man. So if man hasn't yet been created, so then you can't yet have the festivals, because the festivals depend on us. Yeah? So, for example, when you have a bracha, when it's Shabbat, like this year it'll be Shabbat and no, it's after Shabbat. So you have Shabbat and Yom Tov together, so we say the bracha, yeah, second day, yeah. So the Kadesh, we say Mekadesh, Yisrael v'Hazmanim, Shabbat Yisrael, right? Yeah? How's it go?
Yes, Shabbat Yisrael v'Hazmanim.
Shabbat Yisrael v'Hazmanim. Why is that the order? So the Gemara says, because Shabbat is kaim kedushateh, that the holiness of Shabbat is already there from creation. It doesn't depend on us; it'll be there anyway. As the Chagim depend on us being mekadesh the luach, so that's why you say Israel. In order they were created in order to then do the luach. So that's why we know that when Adam HaRishon was created, that's when we know the second parzuf began after Adam was created, and that's the Chagim. So that started from the 6th day of creation from Friday, in other words, Yom HaShishi. So these two different systems. One system is basically the Chagim. 6,000 years breaks down into Yovalot, and then into Shmitot, and then into 1 year, which has 3 Chagim in it. Shalosh Regalim. So when you look at a year, anywhere in the year that we might be in, we're actually in one of the Chagim. Right? So right now we're still in the middle of Sukkot. We haven't finished. On the other, we got the everyday Parzuf, the one of this money, which is breaks down into 6,000 years, and then to 1,000 years, into 100 years, 10 of those, and then 10 years, and then 1 year, and then in 1 year you've got 6 months, winter and summer, and then in each month you have to break it down and to take out Rosh Chodesh, which is 1 or 2 days, and then you have 28 days left, which are the 4 weeks, and they represent for the Partufim Abba Ve'ema Azun, and then each week breaks down into 7 days, and we have to do it every single week. We're going to start a new system again and again and again and again, and then each day, is itself a tikkun, and then you've got 3 tefillot. So that's what we're trying to. I'm saying it slowly. So that's you say you get to Arvit. So you got Arvit, then Shachrit, and then Mincha. Yeah, so that becomes 1 tikkun of a day. Halvat was that simple, right? It's much more complicated than that. But we raised some of the questions like what happened to the first creation? Did Arvit come first, or did Shachrit come first? These are more nitty-gritty questions. But we now have established that when we come to do Arvit, there's a set of birurim. Birurim means, levarer means to take, to choose from the rest, to choose a portion, right? Levarer, like birurer on Shabbat, to choose these from these, right? So we have to take out a section of all the different nitzotzot that fell down from the Zman of the Mikra Melachim, when the Sheva Melachim, when they crashed in the creation story, if you call it. Baruch Hu created the world in an imperfect way, and they mismatched, and then there was an explosion, so to speak, spiritual explosions, and all these kelim fell down into fragments, and they call that Rafach Nitzotzim. Then eventually, when they got to a certain stage, Adam HaRishon was created to fix them, and he was supposed to just do 1 or 2 things before Shabbat, and he didn't do them. He did the wrong thing. He had two sins, right? One was the sins of the cheta of the fruit, right? The tree. That's a da'ato v'ra. And also he had relations with Chava before Shabbat. So there were 2 damaging things which he did. The Gemara and the Midrashim talk about what happened in each hour from the time it was created until you went to Shabbat. until he did the Avira, until he did Shuvah, and then he said Mizmor Shel Yom HaShabbat, and then it became Shabbat. So now, not only didn't fix what would have been the Tikkun Olam, but he took everything that was already partially fixed and put all that back into the Klippot as well. So now we have to fix all what Adam HaRishon mekalkel, what destroyed. Mazal Tov. Right, so one thing is we have to fix what Adam HaRishon damaged, and then had Adam HaRishon fixed what he fixed, then there would have been other things he would have carried on fixing even after that, which we now have to fix. So we've got two tikkunim. Okay? So in other words, Adam HaRishon would have done the job, he didn't do the job, now we have to do the job. We have to do two jobs. Okay, so they're big jobs. Okay? So now, if we would have time to go through also Chaim and learn all the details, what happened first, second, how the Shtalshelut of the Olamot in the Maaseh Bereshit happened, and where the world was created, and where the Olamot are, etc. Eventually we'll come to the system where we see where it happened. So we haven't got the time and privilege to do that because of Zman, so we'll just try and do the general idea. So last week we explained, you can still see the etch of it from before, there's a Chalal HaPanui, right? In order for there to be a world that exists, so we always talk about al-Zman Atid, like where we are now after creation. Before creation, before Baruch Hu, Allah b'Ritzonoi Barach le'livro olamo, before Baruch Hu decided, whatever that means to decide, all these things we talk about opens a new chapter, right? What did Baruch Hu decided? Hashem doesn't need anything. If you look at the Mahari Elbo, he wrote Sefer Klalim, and it says that Baruch Hu is bilti tzorech, he doesn't need anything. He's kol yachol. He's bilti yacholet. That meaning he's telling someone else's other yacholet. Baruch Hu is complete. So Baruch Hu can't need anything. So why did he create the world? Is that a need? Right? Is that ratzon to create the world? What is it? So he explains that. It's a very simple idea. The nature of a Baruch Hu, he didn't even call it a nature. Obviously, it's not the lashon of the Mekubalim. Although he was considered a Mekubal, but he was from the time of the Spanish Chachamim, before Ari, pre-Ari, so it took in a different language. So when Rav Yosef Elbo talks about it, he says he didn't need to create the world, but if you are HaKadosh Baruch Hu Hashem, right? Then that's what you do. You create, you give out, you bestow. He's a bestower, right? So Mekoach HaTov lehetiv. The way of good is to give naturally. He doesn't stop giving. It's not because you need to give. Even if there was no recipient, it wouldn't make a difference. Because Baruch Hu's his nature, so to speak, there's actually his temple, because temple itself is a creation, right? But the definition of one of, if you look in the first page of Derech Hashem, there's 6 definitions of what it means when you talk about HaKadosh Baruch Hu as being the creator. When you say God, what does it mean? What does it mean, right? So a person has to know that there are 6 definitions. And if he doesn't know the 6 definitions, when he's praying to Hashem, he doesn't know what he's talking about. Right? We pray with him and say, God was God. So he's lemala min hateva, he's not min hazman, he's not murkav, he doesn't have right and left and up and down, there's not murkav with different component parts. He's omnipresent, that means he even, without the world he existed, he's got Shem Kadum, like the Rambam says in Moreh and in Sefer Deot, that Baruch Hu was before the world created, he was the Koach HaKadum from before you can talk about something being created. So there's 6 things there which are mentioned, right? So according to Derech Hashem Ramchal, if one of those things, you don't mean one of those things when you're talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then you're talking to the creation, you're not talking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Something that was done by HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? Now, the Ramchal also says in Klach Pitchei Chochmah, in the first drasha, so if you ever know these for him, he says it explains something where I haven't seen it mentioned anywhere else. When you talk about the term Ritzono, HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Ratzon, HaKadosh Baruch Hu had a will, yeah? What it really means is that from whatever we talk about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right, as human beings already created, we can understand it in 3 different dimensions, 3 different modes, if you like, 3 different dynamics, using English words, yeah? One dynamic is talking about things we don't even know what we're talking about. We just know that it must be true. A Chacham, right, can work things out even more than what a Navi can see. Why is a Chacham greater than a Navi? Because a Navi has to see it. He has to have a vision. He's a Chizayon, right? When he sees it, then he tries to explain it. If he can't explain it from things he's seen in this world, like Yoel will explain fire spitting locusts. When you read the Haggadah, it says, Esh, Dam v'esh v'timot Asham. And if you look in the Nevuah of Yoel, he's talking about these mechanical whatever they are on the air, these birds, they call them locusts, and they're spitting fire. So he was describing what will be in the future, right? Date palms of smoke. You ever see what a nuclear bomb looks like? He's describing a nuclear bomb. And planes are going, tiny planes, drones are throwing missiles, right? And fire's coming out of them. Now, how do you explain that to somebody in a generation who doesn't know what nuclear fission or fusion is or anything like that, right? So he describes it as fire-spitting locusts, right? That's what will be in the final war, Gog and Magog. So he's a Navi. He can see something, but he can't explain more than that from what he saw. Chachamim can explain more than that, even things that we haven't seen. You can say there's a flying elephant, yeah, and things like that. Who's seen a flying elephant? Maybe in one of these cartoons of Walt Disney or something, but in real reality, no one's ever seen a flying elephant, right? But you can imagine things, which a Navi can't talk about. Navi can only talk about what he actually saw as a vision, okay? So there's things about HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the creation and what Hashem shared with us in the creation, and there's things that we don't have any knowledge of them, but we can imagine them like we call them the high worlds, the Olamot HaElyonim. What are they? What are the high worlds? What is it? It's like a general term, the high worlds. So the Ramchal says that there's three Bechinot. There's Bechinot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He created the world, and in the world that he created, he shared with us what it is that he created. And we have knowledge of that. That's finite knowledge that will be known to us in this world. That's called Ritzonoi Yitbarach. His Ratzon was to megale to us all these different kochot. And we have to have a relationship with each one of them. So we start Shmona Esrei, take the 13 brachot in the middle. Ata chonen adam da, Baruch ata Hashem, chonen hada'at. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu now has a label as the chonen hada'at. He's the teacher with a capital T. He created teaching, education. He's the very source of anything there is to know in this world. And everything you could ever know in this world is in a finite time. If you read the Sefer of the Ramchal called Dat Utvuna, so in that Sefer, that's what Dat Tvunot, Dat Tvunot, if you go through the Sefer, you get to 2/3 of the Sefer, suddenly says there's something called the Hanhaga Elyona. The Hanhaga Elyona means the divine order. Baruch Hu created the divine order that's unfolding as we go through time. And the Ramchal explains that we're getting closer and closer to righteousness all the time, contrary to what people might think in the world. The world first began, there was good and there was bad, and the whole purpose is for the bad, which God Baruch Hu allowed to be in the creation, for us to fix it and bring it back to being good. He explains there's 5 misconceptions in the world, which the world is used to misunderstand things, and that's why they come to all the wrong conclusions. And that's why all the wars that we go through in time, in each war, each world war, if you like, it gets rid of one evil, and then you get closer to righteousness. Just to give you a quick example, this is definitely, you can't deny what I'm saying. It just takes time because we're not used to thinking in that way. If you've got it, then fine. If you haven't, let's explain what I'm saying. If you lived here in England, in Hendon, 100 years ago, right, you might come home from work, and somebody else will be living in your house, and you'll go and say, "Excuse me, this is my house," and they'll say, "No, it's not. It's mine." So look, this is my house. If you've got a problem, go to the Earl of the Manor. Maybe he was there in the Pillar Hotel, and he's in charge. Yeah, whatever he says goes. So he was bribed. So it was my house. Someone else has got it now. There was no police. There was no courts. There was no judicial system. Right? It was all corrupt. It was all about who wants him to do. Right? Whoever's stronger. So then eventually they adopted police systems, and it got globalized to different countries. If you go to, I'm not saying you should, but if you go to universities, in theory, the maths is the same in every single country. The medicine is the same in every single country. So the world learns facts that are irrefutable, eventually adopts them, and it becomes, on a society level, globalized. Yeah? So that's the emet. The Ramchal explains that's what the world is doing through 6,000 years. It's arriving closer and closer to the divine order that Baruch Hu created. We have it from the Torah. When the Torah created our system, our chokhmah, our wisdom, our gemara, everything's already in there. We don't need to go and learn secular and technical studies, whatever they might be, because it's all in the Torah. If you do it to make money, so we have to make money, so then it's worth doing it. If you have Hasidim, who own these computer program company firms, whatever, making millions of pounds, they never even turn the computer on, maybe, right? It just makes them make money, right? They're just dealing, right? It's okay. So the Ramchal explains to us, it's very important in the Sefer, that as we go through time, we're becoming more righteous, meaning HaKadosh Baruch Hu's emet is getting clear. And even now, the fight, even today, as we speak in Israel, with the judicial systems and everything, it's all about this. It's all about reaching, education is finite. Everything that man can ever know in this physical world is finite. At a certain point, when you get there, then to get more higher knowledge, we need Mashiach to come along. And then there'll be another level of Chokhmah that Ayin Lo Ra'ata, Chachamim said.
Is it the green book?
Yeah, one of them.
The one that the Shama is asking a question of Hashem and Hashem is answering?
Yeah. So that Sefer, the Ramchal wrote it as a introduction to what we're learning now. Rav Chaim Friedlander, who was the Mashgiach of Ponevezh, wrote a commentary on it, and inside his commentary he tells you this is Etz Chaim page so and so, this is also Chaim, because all the Sfarim of the Ari at the bottom, right? And he was a Mashgiach of Ponevezh. He was a Talmid of Rav Dessler, who came from Gateshead, right? Rav Dessler learned with the Leshem. So they all because of the same Kabbalah. So then they became, because of their ability to connect to the generation, because they were the Gedolei Hador, so their Kabbalah was able to be put across in more Musa Drashot, like we hear them when Rabbanim speak, or Talmidim went to gates and whatever. But instead, it all comes, the Kabbalah is what defines everything. That's the amazing thing. So now, the Ramchal says that when you talk about Ratzon, the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it was the HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Ratzon that we should know whatever there is to know, that we can know, that we can understand. Those are things that were created. Right? So one other source, the Maharal writes in Netzach Yisrael that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, he created it in such a way that it's yesh mi yesh. We know what yesh ma'ayin means, ex nihilo in Latin. It means he created something from nothing. The emet is that is only on the outside, it looks like he created something from nothing. There's no such thing, because before, right? The chidush of creation is that there's nothing from something. Baruch Hu first had to create a musag, ki'ilu there's nothing in the world. Right? They call it black matter. If you know science, right? Black matter means there's something ki'ilu blocks HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so you can't see HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And now we live in this halal hapanui, which is dark, and there's nothing. As it HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you can't. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kibiyachol outside the universe somewhere, we can't relate to it, right? And there's this black barrier that's stopping us from understanding that all is not coming to us. We're living in darkness, right? The choshech al panei atehom, first pasuk in Bereshit, there was darkness everywhere. That's what it means. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through the chokhmah of creation, created a situation that we as human beings can imagine. Ki'ilu there's no HaKadosh Baruch Hu in the world. Right? HaKadosh Baruch Hu shalem yoshen yesh no am echad v'zaru b'chol ha'omim. Right? They don't think what the king says, right? That means that there's could be a choice where the person thinks there is a HaKadosh Baruch Hu, there isn't a HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's apikosu, right? Ramban says everybody has to at some point have that thought in order to choose that there is a HaKadosh Baruch Hu and understand everything that comes in the truth, right? So now, come back to what we're saying. So this Halal HaPanoid represents a situation. First of all, there's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, everything that's going to be inside the Halal Panim, all the different sfirot that are going to be created, and all the different states, each one of them is a different gilui. It's a different state of creation that was a development one after the other. So the Maharal says in Netzach Yisrael, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu would have created this zero, and then there's station number one, and then he would have copied that and done the same thing again, parallel, you basically have clones of the same thing, millions and millions of the same thing. Baruch Hu chose not to do that. The first thing he created was the first stage of creation, right? Which let's call it the Keter, right? And then after the Keter, he took what was in the Keter and a kind of lens held back some of the light, or it got absorbed, any of these physical ideas, they're all in the Arizal's writings, right? In the Zohar. All ideas, the masachim, the lenses, the aspacleria, they're all different terms for the same thing. Some of it gets absorbed. If you remember science, what the color that you see is the one that's got absorbed. All the other ones get filtered through. Or is it the other way around? Basically, some gets held with head, the other comes through like the lens, right? So then you get to the next station, which is the next in the series of creation. Number 2 is the chokhmah after the keter. It's something new. It's a new state. It'll be less than the keter, but it'll be a new creation. And that creation, Baruch Hu then can reveal his creation, whatever that represents. In this case, it's chokhmah. So you got education through chokhmah. So now you can have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu through that particular state of creation. If it had not been HaKadosh Baruch Hu created all these different levels of creation, and myriads and myriads, says Ramchal, and myriad means revavot, different parts of creation. Each one is unique because it got developed from the one before it, and it's unique in what it reveals to us. And each one of them means we can now have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu through that particular point of creation, not before, not after. Yeah? So that's according to this Maharal, we can understand that every single subsequent station is a new creation, it's a new Gilui, and there's a different or, it's got a different name, it's got a different Mahut, everything about its essence, everything is different. And that's basically how the world was created. Now, all those different things that were created were all in HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Ratzon that we should know them. And we can know them, and if we'd extend our minds to it, then we can see what we can achieve in a lifetime of our life. And through that have a relationship with the Borei Olam. That's called Ritzono Yitbarach. That's what the Ramchal basically says, with a bit of Tosefet Biur that we've given in Klach in the first drasha. So the Ratzon Hashem means that part of the Ein Sof of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's, all that He wanted to reveal to us and shows that we can know it. Then there's higher levels than that, which we can imagine. We can talk about the higher olamot that we don't know. There's Ratzon that we shouldn't know, that we don't understand them. It's beyond our understanding. And then the aspects of HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we can't even imagine, even to think what they might be. We can't even talk about them as being higher. It's just, we don't know. We'll stop. But the aspects that we don't understand, but we know they exist. And then the aspects that we don't even know what they are. We're the HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? Now, we mentioned last week, the Leshem says we can never have a relationship or talk about how we connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu's Atzmutoi Barach, the essence. Because Enod Melevado. We can only talk about what there is after the creation. Yeah? So after the creation, now we can have a relationship with all the different parts of the creation. Any questions? What I'm saying? Anything? Want to invite anything over here? Is it interesting? Let's call this the foundations of what we need in order to, there's so many things to be mashlim, but each thing has its place. So now we've explained that, we can understand now what a sphira might be. It's a state of creation. Each creation reveals a different aspect, and then we come to do our tefillot. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu has parts now. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is everything all of the time. But through the creation, he was able to reveal how you can see Chokhmah in the world. Because at a certain point of creation, it got created and then it got revealed. And we can connect to that very high place. And then we can have a relationship with it. And then when we see how the oil come down in different worlds, we know how to fix them through the tefillot. What our job is, we have to take them, where they have to go. And each place that we go to, in that particular avodah, in that particular mitzvah, that particular day, it fixes something. Okay? So that's Adkan, that's one idea. Now let's take this Halal Apanui. So the basic story is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we're not talking about HaKadosh Baruch Hu that's all everywhere because we can't understand it. But we can say the Ein Sof Baruch Hu was everywhere. This is the Ein Sof, which is Hashem's creation, was everywhere. And then after creation, there's going to be a special bagel, three-dimensional bagel, where there'll be something inside here called a Halal, and in the Halal there'll be a Kav that has Kedusha in it. Right? So what happened was, where this is going to be, this is Ein Sof, let's say number 1. Okay? Then there's Ein Sof inside here, which is number 2. Yeah? So the Ein Sof number 2 divided into 2 and 3. It left behind a vacuum in the middle, which is empty, and it went to there. So now this Ein Sof has got 2 parts. It's the bit that was already in that section, we'll call that Ein Sof number 3, and there's a bit that came from the center. From everywhere it went out, and that's Ein Sof number 2. You understand? So you've got 1, 2, and 3. Right? Now from this Ein Sof 2 and 3, it came back inside. And this is called the Ein Sof number 4. Okay? That's the whole 2 pages of what's Chaim. And that's where the world where we are fixing was created. That's where it exists. Now, when it came in, like the Ben Ish Chai explains, the first one came in, then when the next one came in, it pushed that one down, and another level came in. And so eventually, the last one is the highest, and the one which came in first became the lowest. Let's call this the Malchut. Right? Because it's furthest away from the Ein Sof where it was in all of its Kedusha, when it's the highest level, let's say, of intensity. Yeah? So the bit at the end is the furthest away from where it started. So that's where, and because all this place, let's say, is insulated, so to speak, from the Kedusha, so otherwise it will go back to how it was before. So basically we end up having the possibility of having an up and a down and a right and a left and all the different musagim, which is called the Shur Koma. Right? It's how you can have the olamot, how they can stand up in a particular structure. So now what's that structure? What's the structure in which they stand? So one of the systems we call is called Segol. You know what Segol looks like? Segol, Segolta. Okay? Start again. The other way around. Segol, and then Segolta. So anybody who's had, you have to just try and fill in. Yeah. So anybody understands now that because Baruch Hu created the world. He created the world saying b'kitzur, very kitzur. There's a halal panui. In the halal panui there was a shir command and all the things we spoke about. How the tzimtzum allowed that inside here now you can have a situation inside here where the olamot can have something above and something below and something this way, that way, and you can get all the ma'arechet, the whole structure that you couldn't have had you not had this system. Okay? Now in this system, right, there's worlds, there's olamot, there's parts of fear, there's all the things that we haven't got time to do everything in one go. But what we're saying for today is that when you talk about 10 sfirot, okay, so you have to get very familiar. The Yetzirah now is going to come to you and tell you there's so many different things to remember that you want to make you try and forget it and give up. Because sometimes you'll talk about nefesh, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechidah. So all the different, take a range of orot, which are somewhere in there. You can divide them into 5 different levels. Nefesh is the lowest, ruach, neshama, chaya, yechidah. You can call them ab, sag, ma, ben. You can call them the 10 sfirot. Keter, kachbad, chagatnai, 10 sfirot. You can call them partzufim. You can call them atik barich, abavima, yisasaba v'tuna, izun, and Yaakov Rachel. 12 partzufim, right, which is mentioned as well. But really what you're doing is you're taking something, making a range and giving it different names. Yeah? So when you learn those names, you become familiar with it. There's junction 1 on the M1 and there's junction 52 on the M1. And if you go on the M1 every day, eventually you become familiar with it. Okay, now Yetzirah is going to come along and say to you, it's too complicated, all these names. I don't remember which Ketzer's first or that. So there's some people who make it their business to know all these things, and they're very good at it. They learn Tanya, they learn Moran, I don't know what else other books that talk about these things. They don't really know what these, they don't get beyond that point of knowing the names of the labels. They know, like doing GPS. We say, what we're doing is GPS. You go on the M1, you can learn this is Watford Gap, and I don't know all the names of all the service stations as you go by them. You can become very familiar. Many Amazon drivers that are aloof, they're command in this, fantastic. Okay, but they're just names that they're learning. Okay, so it's important to understand. Actually, the sfirot are just names, and each place where we're mitaken, it's a range. The Torah Chacham explains. If you take 10 sfirot over there, you'll get the 10 sfirot. If you go down one level, you have the same names, but it'll just be down a level away from that. What we want to try and today talk about is what we mitaken in Arvit. That's how we're starting the shiur that for the last few weeks we're doing. What we're doing in Arvit. So all of this was just more chomer to understand what we metaken in Arvit. We talk about 10 sfirot, right? 10 sfirot. The sfirot, it says in the formation of segolta, segol, segol. Right? Keter, chokma, bina, chelga, tiferet, nesach, chod, yisod, and there's a malchut as well. That structure, which you see in pictures, where is that structure? Where is those 10 sfirot in that formation where there's like a head, and then there's a body, and then there's underneath the goof, the raglaim? Where is that? Right? The answer is in the Prata Acharon. In Na'ar Shalom, and then the Torah Chacham explains how many million levels there are. In other words, the Ramchal will explain, the Marak will explain, the Rav Moshe Cordovero will explain that if you take 10 and then divide it by the 10, you get 100, then you get 1,000, then you get 10, and you keep on going like that 100 times 100. You can just divide 10 by 10 by 10 by 10. You get different generations, right? So too, if you take the olamot and the sfirot and you divide them, so when we're doing a tikkun, we're doing the prat hacharon. In each olam, there's a certain finite point. It's like you take a fractal and you open it up like a snowflake. You know, if you learn maths, right? You can parette it and open it and open. Eventually you get to a point that that's where Baruch Hu said, the olam will die. That's where I want the world to be fixed up to that point. It's finite. It's not forever. Maths, what's between maths and physics? Physics is a physical state, so it has to deal with what you actually have in the world. It can't be theoretical. It's something called theoretical physics, but it's not practical physics, not real, not reality. Maths, can you imagine numbers like negative integers? Now, what's a negative number? It doesn't exist. Where's negative? You can't have negative money. You can have a debt, but you can't say, here, I've got minus £1 in front of me. It doesn't exist. It's theoretical, right? So maths can imagine things, right? So what I'm saying over here is that there's a certain point of creation, how much HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted us to fix. And when we're talking about the Prata Acharon, that's when you have 10 Sfirot. But otherwise, we have to understand that the 10 Sfirot are not really like that. They're Partsufim, like we explained last week. And in each Partsuf, there's 10 Sfirot. So we have to think about Partsufim now. Okay? There's a lot to say about it, but that's, till now, I don't want to overwhelm myself with too much. So there's a lot of information there. Anybody got any questions until now? Okay, this is the theory part. Okay?
Hashem is perfect, so why he created and divided parts?
Okay, so now you made me go into the part that I was thinking of leaving for next time, but I wanted to do it, so I'll add a little bit more, okay, to answer your question. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu create the world? Okay, so we can philosophers and a lot of Sfarim that try to go on these things. We know that Rav Nachman was very against, as well as others, certain Sfarim. He said you shouldn't even read them. Like some of the Ramchal's Sfarim, like Choker Gvul, where you ask questions as a question, as a Havamina, and then he gives an answer. He says, don't read them. If you read them, even in our Moreh Nevuchim, he says you shouldn't read it. If you read it, the Havamina of just thinking such a thing is bad for the machshir, it's bad for a person's mind. Even to be, it's like you have to be allergic to the idea that there's even a Havamina of such a thing. It's so dangerous. Right? It corrupts the mind. Right? Only person who's really strong, even let's say we had students in university and they wanted to learn philosophy. You can't just go and learn philosophy. You have to ask a she'elah to a gadol. If you're allowed to do it, what are the reasons to do it? What do you want to do? Why would you want to learn things that have got apikosis in them? Yeah? It's not allowed. It's against the hashkafot of the Torah. A person wants to be a doctor. He's a Kohen. He has to deal with dead bodies. He's not allowed. He has to go ask a she'elah. And Moshe finds, he said, Kohanim shouldn't become doctors. Simple as that. Right? So the point is that there is a question in the Torah that's being asked. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu create the world? So there's 3 answers in Etz Chaim. Not one, 3 different answers. The Ramchal, in Shari Ramchal, at the end, there's one ketzer explains all these 3 reasons. What are the 3 reasons? First reason is Mikoch HaTov Lehetiv. Because Baruch Hu, like we said earlier, Mr. Kol, even the Sefer of the Klalim of Rabbi of Elbo, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu, can't call it a nature, but the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu is to generate, to give. He's always giving, non-stop pumping into the world life force, shefa, call it what you want. That's HaKadosh Baruch Hu by nature. That's what he does. Not human nature, it's just the way, the definition of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So Makach HaTov Lehetiv, he wants to give us the good. If we get it for free, we're not going to appreciate it. So we know in the Zohar it talks about the Na'ama, the Kisufa, the bread of shame. If we take this bread and we don't earn it, so then it won't be good, because we'll be embarrassed to take like a poor man begging. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, I'm going to create a system with the schar and onesh, and you'll earn it. And that's why this was the olam schar, and then the olam avodah, and the next one is olam schar. So that's one answer. In order that we should earn olam haba, so he had to create this world, so we should earn it, right? Okay. Why did he need that? He didn't need that. He chose it. That's that we understand again, going back to the definition we said before from the Ramchal. Ratzon Hashem is what we know and understand HaKadosh Baruch Hu shared with us. Going back to that klach again in the first Hakdama, when the Ramchal wants to explain it, he asks a simple question. Avi, he says, why do you have 2 arms? Why don't you have 3 arms? Why 2 eyes and not 6 eyes? Right? Why 10 toes and not 15 toes? Why HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose those numbers, right? So whatever you try and give an answer, if you suggest something else, then you say, why was it that and not what you have? You understand? You can't win. In the end of the day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose something. That's what he chose. That's the Ratzon Hashem. You understand? That's what we need to take from us today. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu chose the divine system for creation. that the number 10 was used, the number 7 was used, and we talk about the weeks of the days of the week in all the cultures, there's 7 days in the week. It came from the Torah, it didn't come from anywhere else. It's originally like that way. Right? Because of the 7 Sefirot, which we have to fix in this world. The other 3, we don't have to fix them, they're fixed for us. So, Rosh Hashanah, we do all of them for the whole year. So we don't have to do it all the time, we just don't work with the number 7, but really there's 10. Okay, so these numbers are important numbers. Why? Because Baruch Hu chose it, that's the Ratzon, it's an Oyid Barach. So he wants to give us the Olam Haba, the good. In order for us to feel that it's good, we have to earn it. So he made a whole system where we can earn it. That's the first reason why Baruch Hu created the world. The other reason is because it says it's the kinuim of Baruch Hu. Akol barati, it says lema'ani. It says, how does it go? The pasuk, it says lema'ani. It says birativ, yetzativ, asitiv. Akol lema'ani. Everyone's done Baruch Hu's honor. So what does it mean? So it says in Etz Chaim, he did it in order that we should call out to Baruch Hu according to his kinuim, his names. Ma'hu, Chesed, Afata. You have to do Chesed, right? You have to do Emidak Baruch Hu. The Dov Kabod, there's a mitzvah from the Torah, from the Tarek mitzvah, to be like Baruch Hu, wherever he is, we have to Ma'hu, Rachum, Afata, Rachum. And all these kinuim came in the world, like we explained earlier in this year, like from that Maharal. Like Baruch Hu created something, and from that another thing, and another thing, and another thing. So the first chidush is not he created yesh me'ayin, he created ayin miyesh. Originally there was only HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Eno B'Lvado. Somehow or the other through this creation system, it ends up being that there's a havamina, that there's nothing, that we can not see things, and then the or comes back in, and then each time the or leads to something else, a new state in creation comes in the world. So each one now has the kinuim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the midot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah.
The stage of Ein Miyashit, Bechal talked about.
Yeah, of course, we explained before you came in, it's the Hoshech al Panei Tehom. The Baruch Hu first has to create darkness, it's called black matter in physics, right? That means there's something called the Ki'ilu. We talked about it, I don't want to go back to it, but yes, we did talk about it. That was the first passage Tzimtzum. That's what the Tzimtzum is. Because Baruch Hu made a system where Ki'ilu there was darkness, there's a Halal, the Panui, Rav Nachman talks about it, is all Hoshech. And now we have to bring it all back inside it. Yeah? But that's a stage in the creation. But to enable that to exist itself was the first stage of creation. From then onwards, it's yesh me'yesh. Okay. Now, let's better the third thing. We'll come back to the second thing. The third reason, says the Ramchal, is something very high and lofty that not everybody will be able to comprehend. The third reason why I created the world. What is it? He calls it the Hanaga Elyona. The same thing I talked about in that Tevunot. We talked about 2/3 through the Sefer. It tells you this thing called the Hanaga Elyona. And really, all the technology and history, all the human beings, what they're doing with the science, is just getting closer to the Emet. Through science, eventually, science proves to you that this medicine works and that doesn't work, and democracy is a load of rubbish, and that's a load of nonsense, and this is good and that. And the whole world eventually comes to the Emet through the world itself, through researching and trial and error, we'll call it. Yeah. Whereas the Torah already designed it, already knows what the design is, so we don't need to go there to find it. We can find it all in the Torah. We keep the mitzvah, and that's it. So this Hanhaga Yonah is something, Rabotai, that you can't know while the world is being developed. You can only really fully understand it at the end of time. So the Ramchal says, when you say Shema Yisrael, Hashem, Elokeinu, Hashem, Echad, that Echad is the oneness of the divine order. It's a oneness that everything that it could ever be. The whole book, Derech Hashem, is this idea that it's like an encyclopedia of everything in creation and how Baruch Hu designed it. Everything, the Malachim, anything in the whole world, you see people, men, women, everything, and you don't understand why is it when you go to a bar mitzvah, a wedding, you're sitting and then suddenly, let's say you want to go, I'm saying a joke now, okay, just to wake you all up. Man wants to go, he has to go and do his business. He goes alone, he doesn't tell his friends, do you want to come with me to go be excused, right? But the women will ask each other, let's go together. Why is that? It doesn't make any sense. I never understand why. Because I'm a man. Okay? It doesn't make any sense. It's beyond, say it's not logical, right? Right? But that's how Hashem made everyone differently, right? So I'm saying there's things that we don't understand. Eventually we get to the end of the Hanagal Yonah, we'll understand everything. So we are saying every day, Hashem Echad, Rashi says, Hashem Echad Shmo Echad. On the Pasuk, in the Chumash Rashi, that's what he says. Saying that eventually will come a time that not only that we know HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one, but His name, meaning in the world, will understand the oneness of this divine order as well. And that's really what it means when we talk about the creation, is to get to that. Now we're saying every day I put my hand up and saying I am voting and acknowledging the fact that even if I don't understand it, I'm committed to the oneness of Baruch Hu's divine order, that everything in the whole world is Achdut Gemura. Right? The other religions, I don't want to talk about them much, but just for us to understand what we are saying, Kedai, for a second. There are other religions where they meditate and things like that to reach nothingness. They say the world was created by accident by these Avodah that were playing in the playground, and they accidentally created the world. So this world is a bad place and you don't want to be here, and you have to reach other states of being where you get to nothingness, right? For us, it's the complete opposite. In my yeshiva, we had a cook, and he came from, I think it was South America, and he went to China, I don't know where these places, in Korea, that's right. He became a ninja. He used to teach all these yeshiva from all over Bagan and all the others. He used to teach this kung fu and stuff like that. 8th belt down, I don't know what he was exactly. He was a cook in the yeshiva, and he said when he was in Korea, right, he was a Marano by birth, from Brazil, something like that. He was with his ninja teacher, and the ninja teacher says, "You're Jewish?" He says, "You have to go to Israel. You have to go to Jerusalem and find yourself," he said, "because you're higher than we are." He said, "We want to reach nothing. You have to reach oneness. You have something called one God, one." I think he even told him the word Shema Yisrael. Go and find it, and he sent him to Israel. I ended up in yeshiva, and he was a cook in our yeshiva, right? So the idea is that we're getting to see this oneness and everything. It's called Achdut Gemura, and that's where the Kedusha is. This Achdut Gemura is called the kav that comes inside this halal. There's a kav that's called the kav ha'en sof, and it stops at a certain place. Okay? Now, anywhere where the kav is not connected to the creation is called Alma de Peruda. It's the worlds which are separated from it's like as if there's no Kedusha in them. And wherever it's inside where the kav is, meaning it's around the kav, not below it, yeah? So in the Idra and in the Zohar it calls it Ihu v'gamoehu v'chiyohi chad behon. HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his creation and everything with it is all one. Keilu, there's a place in creation which is not one with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the Kedusha is not complete. And there's another place in the Bria which is called that it's not Kadosh Baruch Hu is one with the creation. There's like a klipot, and there's all the chitzonim and all the things that we have to fix, right? So that's part of they're both creations. Everything's a creation. Everything we're talking about is a creation. We're never talking about Kadosh Baruch Hu in our system of the Ari and the Rashash. We're never talking about Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's more. That's Mator. When you're talking about, we said it in the first year, we're saying again and again. That way, there's no consensus when it's your. One can't say the issue. So now, coming back to what we said, the 3 reasons are: number 1, HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to create the world so we have Olam HaSchar, right? Schar v'onesh and Avodah. 2, to know his kinuyim. And number 3 is to understand there's a Hanaga Elionah, and we want to get closer and closer to the Emet, to the Achdut, and understanding everything is part of the Hanaga Elionah. And the more we learn this type of Chokhmah, especially, even you learn the Gemara, and you go through the Gemara, and then you learn the Torah, and you learn Shulchan Aruch, and you eventually come to Halakha, Mishnah Berurah, Ben Ish Chai, yeah? You come to the oneness. You see, you understand the Dvar Hashem now. You get clarity in the Baruch Hu's creation to connect it. There's it gives a gilui, but the gilui of learning Pshat doesn't touch anything like what we're learning now, according to what it says in the Zohar and amongst the Chachamim. It's much, much higher gilui. So now, the second thing we spoke about, Rabotai, which was about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kinuyim. It's a bit more theory today, but I think it's kedai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kinuyim. In this, there's a very interesting machloket in understanding it between the Ramak HaKadosh and the Leshem. Yeah, it's very kedai to know this. According to the way that the Leshem explains it, there's the Baal, the HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to create the world, and he needs a recipient to be able to receive. How can you have all these kinuyim of HaKadosh Baruch Hu if there's no one to know them, right? So he created a world, and he put inside it beings that will be able to be on the receiving end, to be the Mekabel. He'd be the Noten, and they'll be the Mekabel. There was a Rav who lived there at the time of Rav Kook, and just before that, it was called Rav Yehuda Ashlag. He was here in England, he lived in Mile End, in the West End, in the East End. And he had lots of followers, very, very deep in Kabbalah. In fact, some of his Sfarim, Etzchaim, were written here in London. And then he moved to Eretz Israel, And he came over there, and he didn't want to learn like the Rashash, so they basically threw him out. And he moved to Bnei Brak until today. The very great movement of very special people that they follow the Ashlak. He translated the Zohar, but they wouldn't use his translation. It was but eventually proved that it's kosher. But it was a time when they kept away from him. In his Svarim, everything in the Kabbalah that he learns from the Ari is all about a noten and a mekabel. There's a noten and a mekabel. Everything is the recipient, and everything's the relationship between the one who's giving and the one who's receiving. Yeah. So we're explaining that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world so that his names would be known, all the different kinuyim. So he needed to have a recipient. So that's simply how to understand the way the Leshem explains it. The Ramak HaKadosh says, no, there's things much deeper than that going on over here. According to the Leshem's explanation, right, in theory, it doesn't have to be a human being. It could have been a cat or a mongoose or anything. It could be a chulda. As long as there's a creation, the creation could be the receiver of a HaKadosh Baruch Hu's own. Why a human being? Why is human being so important to do the tikkun of the olamot? Because we can emulate HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we know that the Ramak HaKadosh and his student, it was also the Reshit Chochmah around the same time, right? They all, and even in Tomed Devurah, the Ramak explains that when you say the Yud Gimel Midot, it's not enough just to say them. The Haftacha, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, if you say, Ma Yud Gimel Midot Rachamim, Hashem, Elachum Achon, then Hashem Eno Chazrem Rekim is only true if you actually do them as well. You have to do them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has sablanut. He says erech hapayim, so you have to have erech hapayim. You see somebody doing a sin, you say HaKadosh Baruch Hu put him in the world. I have to tolerate them. L'sharit nachalaton means he came from Avraham Avinu, so we have to also have patience. HaKadosh Baruch Hu has patience with them, so we also have. These are all midot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu's rachamim. We have to do them, all of them. Even l'alafim, l'elef dol, right? You have to wait. So therefore, it's not enough just to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has the midot. We actually have to perform the midot. When we perform those midot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, these kinnuim that we call them, these nicknames, whatever they are, titles of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which are, we played right at the beginning for the Maharal, it's a developed state of creation, each one of them. Yeah? You're with me? So when we connect to them and actually physically do them in this world, then we bring HaKadosh Baruch Hu's or in the world, which is metaken the world. So if we wouldn't have rachamim, chas v'shalom, in the time we were supposed to do it, we wouldn't emulate that midah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then that all would be chaser from the world, and the world would be in a state of gvura and dinim, and there's wars and there's famine and there's all kinds of chitzonim and Amalek and Erev Rav running around causing havoc, because we didn't bring the or in the world. So in order to be mashlim, the creation, we have to know HaKadosh Baruch Hu's kinuyim, we have to do these kavanot, we have to bring the or in the world, and then we're called Shatzim L'Makor, and then the world is fixed. So it's not enough knowing them, we have to do them as well.
Why the world should be fixed and it's not coming complete?
HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates the world, Daf cannot complete, so we will complete it. That's our job.
Right, so we become like partners with
Shatzim L'Makor, that's the Gemara with Rabbi Akiva and Thomas Rufus. They're arguing about why HaKadosh Baruch Hu needed to do, why do we need to bring milah? Why? So he said to him, why don't you eat raw wheat? You have to cook it. You see, the world's not perfect. HaKadosh Baruch Hu made the world that the human being, the Ben Zachar, is not complete until he does bring milah. So we have to be metaken olam. And then we're called Shutfim L'Makom. Another example, Avraham Avinu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, he sends the three malachim. After they tell him the Torah, that one was to heal him, one was to tell him that Yitzchak is going to be born. What was the third one for? Remember?
Destroy.
What's he telling? What's he sharing his diary for? What does HaKadosh Baruch Hu tell to Abraham? I'm doing this at 3 o'clock, do this at 4 o'clock. What's he to tell Abraham Avinu what he's doing with the world? What for? So the Gerer Rebbe explains, Sfat Rebbe explains, he was telling him, I'm telling you this, you'll do something about it. I didn't create a world for you to sit back and do nothing. If you're Avraham Avinu and you understand why you're in the world, now you have to go and do something about it. So what did he do? He turned the world over. 50, 45, until he got to 9, and even that wasn't, but he never gave up. Because he understood that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants you to be a partner in the creation. Yeah? Although everything's from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, but we have to be part of the system. They gave us, we explained in the first year, that the whole tikkun of the olamot, of the birurim, only depends on Klal Yisrael being ma'aleh the man, taking them up. Remember the Lashon of the Rashash was, the whole chokhmah can be summed up into two things. Man and mochin. Man means to lift up the birurim, and mocher is to bring down the bits that fix them up and then be mashlim the world through that way. Okay, I wanted to do something inside, but we didn't chat. But this is really what I wanted to talk about now. If we take now what we said over here, if we do this for today, it'll be great. In this halal hapanui, imagine we said now there's 6,000 years. We've got two parts of him that we have to fix. One is the chagim called Patuf Azmani, which begins on the sixth day of creation when Adam is created, so then he can mekadesh the luach, and we can have the chagim. So that's 6,000 years. It goes down to Shmitin, 7 years, and then every year Shalosh Agalim. We're still in the middle of Sukkot according to this Parzuf. But the Parzuf that we work in, which is in this luach that we shared last week, that breaks down every single day, and then the Shachrim and Arbit, Arvit, the Kelim Chitzonim of each day's Parzuf. So we have to now imagine that there's 6,000 years going like this, right? So where is that? So that means somewhere where this kav is, and where the klipot are, there's 6,000 years of Parzufim all around each other. Understand? Stop and think this for a second, because everything we do every day, every mitzvah that we do, every avodah we do, now we're going to try and understand in a completely different way what I just did. What am I dealing with, right? So this is how you can visualize it. But let's not take it and make it linear for a second. You know, sometimes you have these like when you go to the shop and to get your shoe size, and this sliding scale things they have that goes through the different numbers. Imagine you've got loads and loads of parts of it. Now each one of them is a year. In each one of those years, we said kites and there's choref, 6 months. In each chodesh, you have to break it down to 6 and 6. Don't ask why it's 6 and 6. That's a whole different story. But in each month, you take out Rosh Chodesh and you've got 28 days, which is 4 weeks, and then you get 1 week. There's 4 different parts of him in a month. Right now we can see where we are. We're in going to Kaf Dalid now, right? And Kaf Dalid is the Yatza of the Shevet Mossad tonight. So Kaf Dalid is in the Parzuf, the last Parzuf, which is Nuk. You've got Zah, Nuk, and Abba Ve'ima, 4 weeks in every single month. So we're now in that Parzuf, right? And we're in the 4th, we're going into the 2nd night of that Parzuf. So all that we just explained is 1 month, which is part of 6 months, which is part of 1 year. And there's 6,000 of these years, right? So what's actually happening is that in this Chalal HaPanui, every time we fix, let's say we started from the beginning, so from Adam's time there was a year over there. It got fixed, then another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. So actually we're going out to this halal, and we're fixing the entire halal till Mashiach comes, till the Geulah. Every single day. Now, we're not really moving, in a sense. Everything is already there. But there's things which need to be fixed, and there's things which are already fixed. Right? So imagine the area over here, the shetach over here, which is not yet fixed. Okay? So there's all these birurim that fell down. We explained when there was the nefilah of the melachim, and because of Adam Arishon's sin, we put everything into the klipot. Okay, so connected to what we said last week. So let's just clear our minds for a second now and do something new, and so we can between now until Arvit learn something that practical that we can actually understand that we can do. Every day there's these birurim. Now, in general, you've got the olamot of Atzilut, Biriya, Yesiya, and Asiya. Okay, somewhere over there. Okay, now Atzilut is really where we fix everything. That's where the kav is, right? Because underneath the kav is these other olamot biyah. These 3 underneath them: Biriya, Yesiya, and Asiya. Okay, now these are the kelim that fell from Atzilut, the kelim pnimiyim, emtsaim, and chitzonim. They have to be fixed. Okay? Bear with me, I'm not going to complicate it. Just everything else we learned today was theory. This is practice. This is lemaaseh. Okay? Every week on Motzei Shabbat, right? These olamot on Shabbat they go back to Atzilut, and then on Motzei Shabbat they go back down, and they get submerged into where the klipot are. Explained that there's a coral reef in Eilat. I'm not saying you should go there, but it's an underwater observatory, and when you're under the water, you can see all what's going on in the ocean around you. It's keep you submerged. So they're like the elevator, glass elevator, going into the klipot. So now we're in the chol, we're in the klipot. When we're in the klipot, there's 3 klipot. I won't go to their names, but there's actually 4 klipot. These are proper klipot, but the last one is called the noga, klipat noga. And there's a good side, there's tov, and there's ra in it. from this Klipat Noga is where we get our skin from, and 4 elements. And the Yetzirah that we have, that we're born with, depends on where it came from, the Klipat Noga. Different to the Yetzirah which comes from doing mitzvot and Chas v'Shalom Avirot, for the Taryag mitzvot. Even Goyim have a Yetzirah Tov and Yetzirah for the Klipat Noga. Our Midot come from the Klipat Noga. This Klipat Noga is where the Birurim are. These Birurim are the Klipat Noga. So for this week, if we divide up into 7 days, every day there's a section of these Birurim that are going to come into the Kedusha. Actually, we're going to them, but let's say they come to us, whatever the reason. It doesn't matter which way around it is. If you understand what I'm saying, actually we're going to them. But every day, every mitzvah, every opportunity to do the mitzvah, there's a section of birurim, of nitzotzot, that we have to metaken. So for example, let's talk about Arvit. We're going to do Arvit in a few minutes. Yeah? When did the birurim come into play? When they come into the Kedusha, they come into the world, meaning they come into the holy, they come out of the klipot, this is klipot, and they're coming into the Kedusha. Right? And then we can fix them. So the answer is they have to come in and come into these olam. They're called hechalot, and they come into the hechalot. And the way I'm explaining it is according to the way we understand Rabbi Shaul. They don't come from underneath; they come from the side. Which is why you got klipot keneged bria, yitzira, and asiyah. They're different klipot. So when we start shachrit, for example, we say the word et ketoret, right? The gematria of ketoret is 11 times aleph daled nun yud. Right? And that name is 11 Samane Ketoret. That's when they all come in to the Kedusha. And then when we go through Ezra Kuman, we take them up. The ones which stay behind, the ones which have to go up, and we keep on going up and up and up and up until we get to Atzilut. Each time there's a Kaddish, we take it into another Olam. We've got Chasish, Siddur, you'll see it says the Tfilat, Atzilut, Tfilat, Libriya, Yitzirah, what we're doing. And we take these Birurim up into Atzilut when we get to Chadushman, Shmona Esrei, like we explained in previous Shurim. Now, we don't have Korbanot, Zmirot, and Yotzeror in Arvit. So when did these Birurim come into the Kedusha?
During the day.
So, I might expect you to know the answer, but the Shem Sasson says it happens in Shachrit. Everything, because even Mincha you don't have as well. So in Shachrit, you bring everything from Mincha. And if it happens to be Erev Shabbat, there's a special thing that happens in Mincha Erev Shabbat, which is more than all that. You get extra levels for the whole week, which comes in Mincha Erev Shabbat, which is why everyone is always late for Mincha, because it's the most important tefillah of the week, right? They're either not there, they miss the minyan, or they're in the Chazarah, because it's so important, right? Friday is the most important day of the week. It's like the Yisod. Everything you missed during the week, you can fix it all on Shabbat, on Erev Shabbat, I mean. So what that day the yeshivas don't learn, they go do their washing, they go into Gula and they talk nonsense with everyone, or they sit all day long in the mikveh talking politics. That's the day of all the Kedushas, that's the day all the Batala comes on that day, right? And the people have Averot Dafka on Thursday night. What could you do, right? Rabotai, we're explaining over here that when you say the word et ketoret, right, in Shachrit, all the Birurim come into the Kedusha. They're all in place. They came in. Now we have to take them up through the tefillot. So when we got to Arvit, says the Semen Sasson, that's how he learns. It already happened in Shachrit. They're all in place. Now we only have to take them up.
Arvit was first.
Huh?
Arvit was first.
Don't ask that question yet. It's a really good question, but don't ask that question. Either HaKadosh Baruch Hu did it for us, the first time, or Arbit might not be first, because the Rashbam doesn't learn like Rashi, right? Rashbam, the Gemara itself in Brachot learns that Erev came before, that day became Erev. Right? Erev means there was a day, and then it became nighttime after the day. So it's not so pashut that the night came before the day. But then you tell me that's what we do in Allah. We go by the night first. So okay, these are difficult questions. Okay, but it's a good question. Okay, Baruch Hu did it for us the first time. Okay, it's connected to lots of other things. So Bekitzur, what do we want to take from today? That we can understand that Baruch Hu created, right, the world. In the world there was the Shirat HaKelim and all the fragments went down into the Klipot. We need to take them out. We get to Arvit. We haven't got Siddur yet. Bezrat Hashem, as we develop, and whoever we see is going to remain, Bezrat Hashem, we'll print Siddurim and we'll go through the Kavanot, right? So the first Kavanah in Arvit is the Kaddish. according to Pshat, you don't need to do Kaddish before Baruch Hu. If you're learning Torah and you say the Kaddish after learning Torah, you don't need to do another Kaddish. But according to the Kabbalah, you must do Kaddish before Baruch Hu. Because in that Kaddish, we take the Birurim, right, into, they have to get to Olam HaBriah. At the moment they came in Shachrit, but we have to bring them up to Atzilut. So the whole bracha of Asher Yosef, of Shema, Asher Bilbao Arvim, is all in Olam HaBriah. So in that one Kaddish that we say, we have to jump up to Briah, to take all the Birim up. So it's a very important Kaddish. If you miss it, you know, so we didn't get a chance to do it ourselves. We have to have Rahmanim from Shemaim, they'll do it for us. Yeah? But that's why we have a Kaddish before Arvit. That's why it's important. By Hasidim never miss it. And they make Hoshir Malos, Moroccan make Hoshir Malos out of it, right? But the Pashtarim come along and they say, I don't need it, we can miss it.
In the Kaddish, are we going through a into Bria, or we jumping straight?
We take the Birurim came in Shachri. We say Kodesh Mason, and so all that in each olam there's hechalot. There's 7 hechalot.
So what's
They have to go up these hechalot into from ones in Asiyah to the ones in Yetzirah, once you send on to Bria, and then we start Hashem
we have to actually do first here and then come through it.
We get to Shema when Hechalava the Bria, which is over here, and we get to Shema Esrog in Atzilut. So we have to understand that we're taking up the Birurim. Those Birurim, everyone has a portion according to their neshama. Only you can do it. No one else can do it for you. So the whole world, the whole Tikkun Olamot depends on us dealing with our personal portion that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has entrusted in our Tikkun. So we didn't do anything inside today in the book by Baruch Hashem. We got a good grounding. I hope it was. Any questions? It's important if you've got questions to ask them, because otherwise Chas v'Shalom might get confused. Any questions? Will we stop? Baruch Adonai le'olam amen v'amen.